Hey guys, it's Friday, weekend time, so let's do a quick one. In previous video, I have already added a feature to generate the QR code in the ShortURL service, which the application you see here, for demonstration purpose. So today I'm going to add more feature to it. What I'm going to add is the view tracker. So the customers may want to see how many views or hits per short URL. So this is what I'm going to give them. There are multiple ways or solutions to build up such feature. So if you search online, a lot of solutions, discussions, which are pretty scalable and distributed. But for now, I'm just going to use a database to store the views of each URL. But we leave the interface for the future so that we can extend to some more scalable solution. Okay, let's start. I have actually completed a code change, so I show you step by step. Firstly, I'm going to use PHP artisan make model command with -mcr option to create a new model called ShortUrlView. With this command execution, it will also create the controller ShortUrlView controller, which is not used in this video. But just in case in the future, if we want to support more features, so we can use. Okay, so this is the model. With the command execution, we should see a new migration file. So this is what I created. I add two new columns, short URL ID and account. The short URL ID is a foreign key to short URL table. This is to tell which short URL this view is associated. And the account apparently is how many views or hits on that URL. Okay, so this is a model and the migration file. Once you complete the code change in the migration file, run PHP artisan migrate to apply the change to the database. So the next step is to develop a service to increment the views. So what I did is to declare a new interface called ShortUrlViewService with the only function increment. It receives token and the count to increment. With the token, we should be able to address the short URL and the short URL view so that we can increment the count. So that's the interface. I implement a database-based implementation. I put it in the services database folder. So in this implementation, I simply use short URL model. So I use the token to find the short URL, then get the view of it, increment by the count. So you must be wondering, what is this view field? So this is a change applied to the short URL model. I add a new function called view to return the one-to-one mapping to short URL view. So it's powered by the foreign key. The other thing in the short URL view model, I added two fillable columns, short URL ID and account. Okay. So this is a service implementation. So here there's no check or validation on the existence of the short URL, the token specific URL. That's because let's look into the controller, short URL controller. Before the short URL function call or the store function call is returned, I add a bunch of code to create a view entry for each new short URL, which means the URL and the view is a one-to-one mapping. So it's guaranteed for each short URL. The view entry does exist with count 0 at least. So we don't need to check if it exists in the view service implementation. It's guaranteed, it's always there. Okay, once we have implementation, we can bind it to an interface in the Laravel service container. The other thing is that as we have the interface, in the future, if we want to migrate to some scalable solution, for example, a log-based big data processing workflow, it can be easily implemented and change the binding. So when we are talking about binding, so let's look into the app service provider. Here, this is a binding where we define, so associate the interface ShortUrlViewService to the implementation, which is a DB based. Now we are able to use this implementation in ShortURL controller now. Where are we going to use? It's in the redirect function. Before the function returns, we are going to increment. So you see here I add a second argument of the function redirect, which of type ShortUrlViewService. It's automatically injected by Laravel framework. So this is a concept of the dependency injection. Now I'm going to use this service to increment by token and by increment by 1. Okay, that's everything, all the changes I made. Now let's look into the page. Essentially, there's no change on the front end. One more thing to tell. If you follow my previous video and create a table and add some data to the system, you may need to delete them, as the current short URL in your table has no view entry associated with them, so it might not work. Okay, we already have 3 entries in here. Now let's find some link. How about this one? Pretty long. Now I'm going to type here and generate a short URL. So you can see here, this is a short URL generated. And if we look into the database, we should see a new entry here with a short URL ID 14. So this is what we just added to a database. And the count is 0. Let's come back to the page. Click the link short URL 4 times. If everything works, we should see count 4 in the database. And that's what we see here. So this is how we can implement the view tracking in this service. So again, this is not production grade implementation or solution. When we write to the database in the massive traffic, you will see a huge amount of write to the database, so there might be some performance issue. So in the future, we might want to shift this kind of work to an offline system, which is for example, log-based processing system. So the metrics may not be, so it will be some, there will be some delay on the metrics, but typically that's what you see in most of the products in the market. So if you want to see real-time tracking metrics, you need to spend more time on investigation on the other enterprise solution. But for now, this is the demonstration, and I leave the interface there for the future purpose. Okay, I think that's it for today. If you have any question or feedback, feel free to comment below. As usual, I will also commit the code and leave the PR in the video description so you can check it out. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. If you feel it's useful, remember to thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Okay, see you in next one. Bye bye.